Is there anybody besides Megan Crouch that you'd like to speak on? Any other coworkers?
You know, you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. And so one of the privileges, I inherited Megan Crouch, and what a gift she was to me throughout my time with the agency. But most of the staff, when you're there a little while, I was able to hire and bring in. And the hardest part about my retirement, I'm not really retired, but of leaving my role as executive director at Safe on Main, was to know that I wouldn't see my staff on a daily basis. They become family. You think about how much time you spend there. And some you love more than others, but very dedicated, wonderful workers. I just would give again a shout out to Megan, to Roy Lutz. I think of I'd like to actually address the fact that with Safe on Main, you think of the people in the shelter are the domestic violence survivors we're working with. That is actually a very, very small fraction. The majority of them, those are who are left homeless. The large percentage are the ones we work with through domestic relations court with our legal advocates. And Jenna Martin and Kim Smith Wiltman both are stellar legal advocates and work with approximately 400 individuals a year in domestic relations court, helping them get protection orders and go through whatever that domestic relation court process is, divorce hearings, all kinds of things. So that's where the largest number of domestic violence survivors are served in that capacity. But boy, you get yourself in trouble when you start shouting out names, because Lori McCoy, she's the hub of the office. I used to tell her she couldn't go on vacation because I would just collapse when she left. She just literally was that center, and being able to grow and journey with her. Tanya McCoy, the shelter director. Geraldine Barnett. I'm going to forget somebody really important. They're all wonderful staff, and actually a huge shout out to Dorico Murray, who is the executive director, who has now been charged with the leadership there. Tremendous. I've had such peace being able to relinquish my emotional attachments to Safe on Main, knowing he's in that role. He's the man for the hour, and I know he's going to take that agency to new heights.
It's fantastic. It sounds like a lovely group of people. We've already spoken on some of the amazing accomplishments you have finished as executive director, like the shelter renovation, all of the grant work you got to increase the funding that came in, and of course the name change and even moving your offices, obviously. But are there any other memorable projects you were able to help with over the years?
That's quite a lot already.
I know. It is amazing. If you say no, I will still be amazed.
Well, there just could be. I just am not thinking of them right now. I'm going to say that my leadership really influenced and provided directorship over these main items. Creating a new staff structure, recognizing giftedness and utilizing that, building unity within the staff. The move was enormous. Public awareness, I think, is another huge one. we're on the map. We kind of would say that internally, hey, we're on the map. People come to us now all throughout the day. You know, they're calling, how can we give? How can we serve? We have a donation. I think it's reflected in the number of volunteers that go through our training and come and volunteer and participate. Probably maybe another one to add this is our successful fundraising events. That's one of the top charges of responsibility of the executive director, and is to reach whatever the board finance committee decided is needed for that year. And we started out back in 2015. I literally 2 weeks in, under contract, inherited a already planned event. I think they raised about $18,000. And I have a background in development, so that was humiliating to me. And I said, no more. So the next year we doubled that. The next year we doubled that. And we've been able to net in the 120s, 130s with very successful gala and fundraising events. So I have no doubt. And that grows because more and more people hear about what you're doing and they want to invest in that work. They want to be a part of it. And that just takes a lot of communication and education.
On that note, maybe not so much projects, but what are some of your highlights, the top moments you got to experience at both of these positions, or periods of time, I should say?
Yeah, you know, being able to use the platform or the institution of the prosecutor's office or a community nonprofit service-oriented agency to give to the community. Both of those helped connect me with the community in which I live. My husband and I have raised our two now well-adult children in Warren County, and although most of that time was spent in the Mason area, we moved 6 years ago out onto some land. But knew we absolutely wanted to stay in Warren County. It's a very, very special place. There's more unity than discord. I've been very involved politically. I've been able to, through these two platforms, get connected with our government leaders, elected officials, to see the bigger picture of things. And because of that, it's opened a lot of doors for positive influence for me personally, in addition to whatever role I've played professionally. And for that, I will forever be grateful. I feel connected, vested, and want to continue to invest in Warren County. It really is a uniquely special place to live and to work.
Absolutely. When you started for the county, obviously you started for the prosecutor's office, and then eventually you did not work for the county per se, but you did work closely with a lot of government agencies. So did you notice a big change in the structure of government and advocacy in Warren County in that period of time?
Well, I think things are always changing and evolving for the good. Probably the change comes more from building deeper relationships, so having more access, more levels of trust and communication. It's exciting to be a part of a county that is so financially stable during tumultuous times with the economy and so forth. We've got great commissioners and leaders within the county that have helped maintain its stability and make it truly a place where people want to live. But I think my perspective on it probably has been just being able to journey alongside and be a part of the changes and the processes and growth. I am somebody who loves change, maybe less than I used to, but we kind of talked about where did I grow up and so forth, and a little bit, and grew up moving a lot. And so my internal being kind of desires change. Well, what's next? And my husband jokes that, are you sure you're yeah, you're not going anywhere. Like, you change everything else, like, you're not going to change me out. I can assure you I'm not. We are here to stay with each other. But it's fun to be a part of a county that welcomes change, looks for growth, looks for ways to do things differently and better, more effectively, more efficiently. Looks for ways, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but where we actually, there were some tax breaks that we got that implemented through our commissioners, and wow, they could have taken that money and invested it differently or put it into something else, but let's give it back to the community and to the taxpayers. You don't always see that. So I always welcome and invite people into Warren County, because I really, I'm a proud resident of Warren County. Yes, it has changed, and I believe for the good.
It certainly has. And speaking of change, I think it might be a good question to ask, how was COVID during your time here, or at any other significant?
Oh, it was just wonderful. I would love for it to come back. Has anyone answered that question differently than I'm about to? No. It was jolting. I will say, going into it, I'm not a fear-based person. I'm like, okay, there's this pandemic and we're all going to live. It's all going to be fine. And I had staff who panicked, and I had to figure out what to do with that. I had to do something differently than what was going through my head that I wanted to do with that. And I'd like, we got to work from home. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. And so I grew with that process. I had to realize we all respond to life-altering situations differently. I personally went into that office every day because that's what worked best for me. But yes, all of a sudden we had to create, internally, I had to create policy, procedures, work from home policy, and how we were going to respond to testing positive and what that all looked like, and following local protocols and statewide protocols and national mandates and protocols. It was a very difficult time. At the same time, many agencies throughout the state of Ohio, which I had my eye on, were closing down. And I put my heels in the sand. I said, we will not close down. We are essential. And if we close down, where are these people going to go to? How would you like to be isolated with your abuser? And because it affected the economy, work, etc., that created an even more hostile environment in homes. We literally created, and I say we, meaning my staff, came together and we said, we can't do this right now, but we can do this. And we did major shout outs to the faith-based community. We're the greatest givers, but creating all kinds of essential need packets and baskets and food items and gift cards, and literally delivered at doorsteps of our clients. I think there was 1 week for health reasons we closed down, we had a company come in and completely, multiple times, sterilize the shelter. So we would close down for a couple of days, completely have it sterilized, wiped down, and then reopen. But for the most part, we stayed open and continue to provide our services. I guess it's a positive outcome, but I think we're going to reap the repercussions of the ever-ending flow of COVID funds. But I will say that was very helpful to our agency because we could not continue. There were 2 years that we were not able to hold traditional, what we know as historical, traditional, successful fundraising in-person events. In some ways giving increase because people weren't out spending and they wanted tax breaks and so forth. So we actually saw an increase in the amount of individual contributions. And I absolutely went after every stream of funding I possibly could. Not because I necessarily agreed with the way the government was handing that out, but it was available to us, and I knew that we as an agency would be good stewards of that funding. But I really don't like that word, COVID, and you triggered me with that question. I'm kidding. We managed it just like everybody else did.
Could you think of any other significant events that happened around the county, like different recessions that affected the shelter, or?
No, not during my time. On a larger scale, one of the biggest streams of funding that both the prosecutor's office, and I wrote that grant, as well as for Safe on Main, was the VOCA funding, Victims of Crime Act. That's actually, Ronald Reagan was president at the time, signed that act into law, and that began funding and helping grassroots. So we started back in 1984, and that's when so many grassroots organizations around domestic violence, sexual assault popped up all over the country, starting in California, because of this stream of funding. So it's always been present, and it's federal funds that goes through the Attorney General's office and then trickles down to the local level. And when I stepped into the executive director role, the cap was lifted on that funding through Congress, and we went from an okay amount, it more than tripled. In that first year, we were told, the sky's the limit. Well, a lot of people, a lot of directors, leaders were like, well, what if it's not sustainable? And I said, if I came up to you and said, would you like $100,000 today, but I can't give it to you tomorrow, would you turn it down? I don't think so. So I went after it. And at that point, we were able to buy, a lot of it went to refurnish and renovate our shelter. Things like, furnishings and appliances and all kinds of things like that. And that worked for a few years. And now it's back to a very limited amount, less than what it was when I started. I think that very essential stream of funding is never going to be the same again. I think it's going to turn into something else, I hope. But because it left such an enormous gap, I had to get very creative and explore new streams of funding. I'd written grants. I mentioned having written that one, a couple other grants through nonprofit, but I certainly gained a lot of knowledge and skill in grant writing during my time there. Coupled that with just private donors and getting your own community to invest in your mission is a beautiful blend for a nonprofit organization and its sustainability. You never want to depend just on the government to financially sustain you.
Right. And aside from grant writing, was there any other things you've learned during either your tenure as, well, either director, really?
Absolutely. You learn as a leader. I believe in servant leadership, and so I have tried to model that I'm leading you, and I'm not going to, nothing's above me to do. So before we had a cleaning service, I cleaned toilets and scrubbed floors, pulled up carpet, tore down wallpaper, whatever was needed to do. I never expected my staff to do grunt work that I wasn't willing to do alongside of them. I also believe that I grew in my ability to hear the voice of my staff and to explore their giftedness, and that although I often think my ideas are exemplary and maybe the best, that others have tremendous ideas and that we see things through different lenses. And that was a real turning point for me when we moved from the Northeast office over to Safe on Main. It's kind of like build it, they will come. That larger space enabled larger conversation, larger creativity, larger exploration of how we can grow as an agency. And so I immediately implemented what we called Mondays on Main. So every Monday morning at 9 o'clock, 9 because that's when I came into work. I choose to work later and enjoy my mornings at home. But at 9 o'clock, we'd all gather together in the conference room and start our week out together, learning what everyone's going to be doing, what's going on in the agency. And then from that developed a lot of roundtables where I learned to engage my staff, especially department heads, in decisions that were going to impact. What a turning point that was for me, personal growth, but also to see what better decisions I was able to make by hearing different perspectives and having exposure to things that I didn't think of on my own.
What do you think you're going to miss out of all?
Well, my last day at Safe on Main was at the end of September. I'm actually still under contract with them, although the new leader is doing superbly. He calls and will run some things by me. I have spent some hours back in the office to provide some guidance, but I'm kind of wired that I will give everything I possibly have. I'm all in, and then I'm all out. I'm able to move forward because I had the wisdom to leave on a high. And I would love this to be recorded. My dad instilled in us 4 children, my siblings and myself, to always know when to leave. You both are young, so you tuck that away. You always want to leave on a high. You always want to leave a place better than you found it, and you never want to feel that door hit you in the back when you walk out. And I felt that time had come for me. Again, I'm a developer. I felt like I had kind of given my best to that particular agency, and I wanted some new blood to come in and take it to its next level. I don't miss a lot of the daily grind. Where's that next dollar going to come from? You know, is this next gala going to be successful? Those were fun, but you kind of tap out on those after a while. I will always miss my staff.
Absolutely.
Those I had the privilege of working alongside.
And what do you have planned now that you are leaving?
So remember that bucket list job of overseeing flips and staging homes and being a part of the renovation? That is what I'm doing. I'm not doing that. I made another radical pendulum swing. I am now a licensed mortgage loan originator. So I went into the lending industry, and I am working with the home consumers with new purchases, or not that we can do this right now, but refinances are not real popular right now, but home equity lines and so forth. So I'm actually working for my nephew who's a broker. And the beauty of that, I'm challenged by it. I love business and finance, but I am able to really leverage my time. And that's one of the things I was seeking to do. When I started working for the county, I had a freshman in college and a freshman in high school, and I now have 5 grandchildren and 1 more on the way, and mentioned family is a top priority. So I want to be more accessible, to spend time with my grandchildren and to serve my family at this stage of my life. And my husband's semi-retired, and we love to go south and visit beaches and places where it's warm in the wintertime. And that's easier to do when you have more control of your schedule.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It sounds wonderful. One last question for you. You've already said leave on a high note, but do you have any other advice you would give to current employees?
At Safe on Main or in general?
It can be anywhere.
You know, you hear, you know, you want to wake up in the morning and desire to go to work. I think that's extremely important. I think there's times in life, sometimes you just have to work. Sometimes it really is just a means of bringing in whatever you personally need financially to pay bills or to provide for your family. So sometimes work's just work. But I think finding your niche, finding what makes your heart race a little faster. Up until a few months before I decided to maybe move on, there was not a day in all those 12 years I didn't want to go into work at Safe on Main. And people would say, when are you going to retire? Which I found a little insulting. Do I look old? But I literally always enjoyed going in. What's the next challenge? Not that some days weren't hard, not that there weren't days I went home absolutely drained. But for the most part, I loved going into Safe on Main. I loved my role as the leader. I loved having influence. And so if work just has to be work, let that be short term. Truly find, it could be with the same agency, it can be in the same department, but maybe the task is not exemplifying and exonerating and really utilizing your strongest gifts. Find what that is and do it, and you will find so much more passion and joy and delight in your work. You'll be more pleasant to work with. Whatever you do, find joy in it and make it fun. And then it's okay to switch careers. I am a prime example of that. I'm not somebody who's wired to do the same thing all my life. No way, Jose. Back when they used to give the ruby pins for 10 years, 15 years of service. I mean, my husband has pins. I'm not wired that way. It's okay to know that you gave all you could to that particular position, and then seek what is next. Life's short, it goes fast. Absorb it and make each day count.
I think that's excellent advice.
Mm-hmm.
That is the end of our actual questions, but is there anything else you would like to share with us before we
I just
end?
want to thank you both. You're so fun, and I can tell that you are passionate and enjoy your work. And kudos to the county for creating this kind of record keeping. It shows that the county does care about their staff and those who are influencing and impacting change within the county. So thank you for that. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
No, thank you more.
Thank you, everybody. Well, on that note, then, we can conclude today's interview, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you.